Welcome to this week's episode of the Savvy Flipper Show. I'm your host and business strategist, Clara Rose, and this is Larry Vanderhoof, our resident expert and construction manager. Welcome to the show. Are you ready to get started, Larry?
We're ready.
All right. Today we are going to do some really important stuff for newbies. We're going to talk about education for a successful flip. This is the basics if you're brand new to flipping and you've maybe even had some education, but still feeling like, wow, I don't know what I'm doing. This is a great place for you to start. So let's jump in and get started on some flipping tips. So things to help you understand flipping, and then some do's and don'ts as well.
Yep.
Some basic stuff. Okay, let's start with flipping tips. The flipping basics. This is all you, my friend. Let's start with education, because I know that that's something that people don't necessarily get. There's some education that you need, and we need to talk about where to get that education, what kinds of things you need to do. So
Sure.
let's talk about education. What kind of education do they need?
Well, unfortunately, most people today are getting their education from their television sets, their DIY, home improvement type shows.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's just too many things that they're not telling you or don't show you on those types of shows that you really need to do your own educating. Whether that's books, whether that's audio tapes, what have you. That's not to say that you've got to spend months and months and months educating yourself on how to do flips. But you really need to know, as this episode says, the basics before you jump in.
Yep, some important stuff to know. So aside from getting a basic understanding of what the flipping industry is about, right? Get that, flipping industry? That was funny, right?
Sure,
Right,
sure.
okay. Besides the basics of that, let's talk about the other things that you need as a newbie, a new beginner. How about a team? What kind of a team do we need?
Well, it's always a good idea to surround yourself with people who know more than you do in the industry. That may be a real estate agent who is friendly to the flipping industry, who knows how that whole process works. A contractor that understands that you're on a budget, that there are time constraints, and he knows what he's looking for or looking at, and an accountant. An accountant
yep.
would be a good source. A lending industry person, somebody from the banking industry, for example. So yeah, that's very important to surround yourself with people who know more about the industry than you
do.
You can bounce ideas off of them.
Sure. Plus, it's just a great idea right up front to build a team, right? A team of people who you're going to need in the process, right? You're going to need someone to borrow money from. You're going to need a title company. You're going to need contractors. These are people that you're going to need. So start building those relationships now.
Sure.
As you start.
And if you don't plan on using a contractor, you're going to be the general manager or the contractor yourself. You still are going to need to surround yourself with subcontractors.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Because probably, at least for most flippers, it's true that you're not a contractor.
Right.
Right? It's different when you are a contractor, of course. But if you're not a contractor, then you need to understand project management and estimating and inspections and those kinds of things, which we'll talk about as well today, the value importance of them. Okay, and then let's talk also about the importance of learning your market. I think people don't spend enough time figuring out what's going on in their own market.
Right, and that's a case of just the areas that you're looking at, possibly purchasing a house in. Know what the comps are in that area. Know what all the surrounding houses that are like for like.
Right.
To the house that you're looking to buy, and get their comps, see what they're selling for. Are you in a hot market? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? All of these things play into it. The school districts, the neighborhoods, all of those things will come into play when it comes to knowing what your market area is. You know what your budget is, and so forth.
Right. Super important for families to
Absolutely.
know about school districts. And so the more information that you have, the better equipped you are to sell to the right people when you're done flipping.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
That's important.
Yep.
If the school district is a really poor school district, you just might want to think twice about purchasing a home to flip for a family in that area. So important. Okay, and then lastly, analysis paralysis is something that people don't realize happens to them until they're stuck in the middle of it. But what is avoid analysis paralysis? What do you mean by that?
Well, that's just simply people, they spend more time trying to get their ducks in a row and know all there is to know about it. And in actuality, more often than not, people are apprehensive about getting out there and
Sure.
talking to people and finding these properties and things like that. They find themselves spending more time at their home or their office stacking papers and sharpening pencils and making sure everything is perfect. There is no perfect time to get out there.
Right.
My advice is to get out there and jump in and just get started.
And just
at
get
it.
started.
Mhm.
Not that there isn't a place for learning, of course, right?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
never stop learning. You need to keep educating yourself about the industry that you're in, regardless of your industry, right?
Well, with the technologies that we have today, there isn't any reason why you can't do both. You can't be out there looking for that
Sure.
property while you're listening to something in your car and educating yourself that way. So there's a lot of ways to get that education, but don't get stuck. Don't get stuck learning and forego the actual
Doing.
life experiences of doing it. That's
Yeah.
the fastest, hands down, fastest way to learn.
Sure, yeah. So learn your pieces and then get out there and try them out.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're big Audible users, so if you're looking for a place to learn and you're going to be on the go, get yourself an Audible account, and then you have a on-the-go university,
Absolutely.
so you can keep learning while you're out there doing it. And like Larry said, there's just nothing like the experience, whether it's a good or bad. There's nothing like the experience of doing it to really learn. We learn good lessons and bad lessons that way. So. Okay, so word of the day, learn, get an education, get out there and get busy doing it. Okay, let's talk about some flipping do's, some things that as flippers we absolutely need to be doing. Let's start with picking your market. What do you mean by picking your market?
Well, you got to know what you're looking for. For instance, the quick sell, the quick flip, or the full-blown renovation. You know, what's your budget? What is your niche? What are you going to be looking for? And I encourage newbies in the industry to find these houses that you can get in and put some paint on and maybe do a little flooring replacement, some carpet and that kind of thing, and get in and get out as quick as you can. That alone will build your confidence because you're learning what you do and what you don't do and that type of thing. So early on, I kind of like to point people toward that quick and easy flip. You're probably not going to make a ton of money on the deal, but you'll make enough to be able to move on to the next one. And just like everything else, practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
The more you do it, the better
more
you'll
you'll
get
know.
at it. And eventually you can move on, maybe start doing more extensive renovations. and
Sure.
things.
Now, what if we're out there and we're doing the newbie, I'm a newbie, I'm out there and I'm doing some lipstick stuff, paint and carpet, and I come across, and pocketing like $10,000 or $20,000, which is no small pennies, right? That's something.
Right.
It's not the big money in investing in real estate for sure, but if you could pocket $10,000 or $20,000, it's not a bad day. Right? So I'm out there and I'm doing this and I come across this smoking deal, right? But it's a ground up, boy, we're going to have to, it needs everything. So, but I'm a newbie. What do I do then?
Well, my advice, there's a couple of ways that you could approach that. First of all, just suck it up and walk away. Because you
Okay.
don't have the experience to tackle something like that. The other thing that you could do is if you've built yourself a good team of people around you and you have that contractor, maybe he's interested in becoming a partner on this particular project, or maybe you know somebody out there who who's been in the industry, who's flipped
Sure.
many houses, and they might be interested in partnering with you on
Sure.
the project. So if you come across those, don't just throw them out. You know, you want to think about it a little bit, and if you can find somebody who's a veteran in the industry, then that might be something you could tackle, and you guys split the profits.
There you go. Okay, so there's ways you can find some help. Get out there and find
Sure,
some help.
sure.
And just make sure you have good contracts when you partner up with somebody. That's important. And Larry covers that in the Flipping by the Numbers course. If you are uncomfortable with that piece, he talks contracts. Try to make sure you protect yourself when you're partnering with people so you don't get taken advantage of as a newbie.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you don't have a lot of time, so let's move on quickly. Be patient is something that you say a lot. What are you talking about? Why should I be patient?
Well, especially with newbies, they're excited. They want to get out there and they want to find that first house to flip. And sometimes they'll put themselves into situations that probably aren't ideal. So my advice is to be patient and keep looking until you find exactly what it is that fits your criteria, budget-wise. The style of home, the neighborhoods, all of those types of things need to come into consideration.
Sure.
Don't just grab the first one, because you may end up regretting it. Some people will go months and months and months before they find their first or second or third house to flip. But it's better to spend the time and not get yourself into trouble.
Not get some. Yeah. Okay. That makes good sense. And then, while we're running out of time on this particular topic, speak just briefly about the finding of your capital and hiring of professionals for the job.
Well, there's lots of places to find capital. You can do the conventional loans through the banks and lenders and that type of thing, but there's soft money lenders, there's hard money lenders, and hard money lenders aren't always ideal, but they can fill a niche, especially if you're in and out of a house
Right.
relatively quickly. It doesn't cost you very much money to borrow that and get it back to them when you make the sale.
Yeah. And then if you are doing one after another, pretty soon you have a relationship with somebody who does private money or hard money lending, and it's going to be easier and quicker because they're
Right.
making some money. You're not paying a ton of money for the financing, but it's fast. And as a flipper,
Correct.
you need fast financing.
Yeah.
And those are the places that you get your fast financing.
And as far as finding professionals, it's best that, again, stay out of the weeds. You know, if there's a project in the house, whether it's electrical, whether it's roofing, whether it's plumbing or whatever, and you know that is way out of your league, don't hesitate to hire professionals to come in and take care of that
Please.
kind of stuff. Again, this whole show is about you keeping as much money in your pocket as you can.
Right.
But don't forego hiring a professional, even if it costs you a little bit more than you think you can do it yourself. Yeah,
It's just not worth the
it's
headaches.
just not worth the time and the effort and chances of blowing a good thing.
So it's something that you didn't discuss, but even if you have the skill to pull something off, right? How much time is it going to take you? A professional might come in for a day and lay the carpet, right? If it's going to take you a week to come in and lay the carpet and it still looks fine, that's still a week of your time, right?
That could have been used looking for more property.
Yes. Your time is much better spent somewhere else as a real estate investor. So don't get caught up in the weeds of doing it yourself unless you have the time and the money. Certainly if you're using hard money, time is really valuable at that point. Time's
Right.
money.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
don't go there, my friend. Okay, let's move on to some flipping don'ts. It's a pretty short list, but I think they're important things to avoid.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about the don'ts. Don't overpay.
Newbies have a tendency to fall in love with the first property or the second property that they find because of two reasons. One is obviously they're excited about it and they
Sure.
want to get going, and they're seeing dollar signs and whatnot, but the homeowner's just not going to budge on that price, so you cave and you give them what they're asking for, and then you find out that at the end of the project, the money that you were hoping to make
You didn't.
isn't there.
You didn't, yeah. Yeah, and we're into real estate investing to make money.
That's it.
Right?
That's
So,
what this whole show's about.
yeah, don't fall in love with your property that you're looking at or what it could be at the expense of your bottom line at
Right,
the end of the
yeah.
day. I think that's a big one. And then don't get in over your head. That's a
That-
favorite one of
Yeah,
yours
yep,
to
and
say.
that goes back to what we talked a little bit about earlier, and that is when you're first starting off, find those couple 3 projects right off the bat that you can get in and get out. You do a little painting, you do a little work here and a little work there, do the landscaping and all that kind of stuff, and then get out of the house and get it back on the market. Make your money, move on to the next one.
Yeah, good advice.
Don't go out there and find that house that, oh wow, this is a great deal, and even if you can get it for a good price, but you don't have the experience and the knowledge or the team around you to tackle it, walk away.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Live to fight another day.
Yep.
That's better advice. Okay, that's good advice. And then don't buy in rough neighborhoods, even if it's smoke and deal, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, it's better to buy a bad house in a good neighborhood than it is to buy a good house in a bad neighborhood.
Or a bad house in a bad neighborhood, for that matter.
If there's more cars up on blocks than on their tires, then it's probably an area you want to kind of stay away
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
Because not that there's anything wrong necessarily with the people in a neighborhood or whatnot, but it's harder to sell, and
Right.
that's what you're in this for.
Right.
You're in this to make that sale,
Right.
make that money, move on to the next one. And if you've got money tied up in this house, the longer you're sitting on that thing, the less money you're making, because you're paying for the power that's going to the house, the insurance it takes to cover it,
Yep,
and
your carrying
and your
costs.
interest on your money and all those carrying costs.
Yep.
So
true.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you're not able to sell it for a good price, don't buy it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you can't, if everything in the area is selling for $50,000, you can't come in, buy a $50,000 house, put $50,000 into it, and sell it for $100,000, because the area will not support it. So
Yeah.
best to walk away. Okay, and then don't get greedy. What do
Right.
you mean by don't get greedy?
Well, it's sometimes people will put their house on the market for 10, 15, 20, sometimes higher percent than what the house is actually valued at, thinking that, oh boy, we're going to make a killing. And again, it gets back to getting the house ready, get it on the market, get it sold, and move on. The longer you sit on that house, the more money it's going to cost you. So
Sure enough.
stay within the market. That's what you want to do. You want to make sure of your comps, and then you want to stay within those comp numbers
Yep.
in that same vicinity.
Yep. Sell it fast so that you put money in your pocket.
Correct.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're sitting on it with all those carrying costs, and you might be paying for hard money, which is a little bit pricier. So, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, let's move on and talk about the tool of the week. Now, this week, the tool of the week is not from Larry. This week, the tool of the week is from me. And you're going to go, oh, Clara, that's so lame. I'm talking about your cell phone. I'm talking about a dedicated phone specifically for your business. Last week we talked about the importance of treating it like a business, right? The value of treating it like a business, having a dedicated phone number, having professional email. Those are just all about putting your best foot forward as a professional, and having a cell phone dedicated to your new business is not an expensive thing to do. But what it does give you is the ability to have your voicemail, and anytime you answer this phone, you know it's going to be about business. It could be potentially somebody calling you because you sent them a flyer, said, hey, we're interested in buying your home, or you sent them a text, are you interested in selling? However your marketing is working, having it go to a dedicated cell phone is a great, inexpensive way to put your best foot forward and treat this like a business. You can make a lot of money investing in real estate. So act like it. Treat it like it is a business. It is not expensive to have a dedicated phone. And bonus, because it's a cell phone and it's a smartphone, you can also check your email there, keep in touch there. Does mean having an extra phone, and there are some people who don't want to pack around an extra phone, and I get that. I have a business phone for my primary business, and then we have a business phone for our investing business. If I didn't have an investing business, then that other phone would be my personal line, and I don't have to answer it as a professional. But every time you answer your business phone, super important to answer it professionally.
Absolutely.
Right? Just like if you called any company, they would answer it, Bob's Plumbing, whoever they are.
You'd hope they would anyway.
Yeah, well, you'd hope, right? That's the professional thing. If they don't, find a different plumber because they're not very professional. So having a dedicated line, a dedicated phone, that's my advice for the tool of the week this week. It's not very expensive, and it's going to help you to look like a professional and behave like a professional. Okay. Now, we are almost out of time, but I want to take a few minutes to talk about the things that you know are near and dear to my heart, and that's being business savvy. That's part of this show is about, it's the savvy flipper, and the savvy part is the business side of it for sure. So I want to talk with you about things that are going to help you to be business savvy, aside from treating it like a professional, of course, which we've talked about, and having your tool of the week, getting your phone. Let's talk about some ways that you can be business savvy as a business owner. Okay, first things first. When people call you and you take in new information, have a systemized way that you do that. I call it an intake form. When somebody calls you, you want to be able to jot down all of their information on a form that isn't going to be a sticky note that you're going to lose, right? It shouldn't be a piece of paper that you're then later going, what did I do with that little piece of paper, that sticky note? Have a systemized way of treating it like a business. This is a potential customer. This is potentially thousands of dollars worth of revenue in your pocket. It is worth more than a sticky note on your desk.
Yeah. Well, anytime you're doing business like this, there's one of two ways to go. There's a way of making money, and there's a way of losing money.
Yep. And we don't want to lose money because you wrote it on a sticky note.
Right.
Right? So have an intake form that has their name, their address, a place for you to jot down anything that they said, because often people, especially in a distressed selling situation, they're going to tell you things, right? They might say, my mother just passed, or they might say my husband lost his job, or whatever is going on in their life that got them to a place of needing to get out from underneath their mortgage, got them in trouble to start with. They're going to share that information with you. Jot it down because you're going to want to remember those things later, and you won't.
Right. Yeah.
You absolutely won't remember the conversation 50 people later, 50 calls later. So having something to refer back to, super important. So intake forms, absolutely important. And then systemized processes of how you follow up on things beyond that very first marketing piece, a way to track from step to step in your marketing process, from step to step in your interactions with your client or your potential client. All those things are really important to know where you are at any given moment with each potential project. And like I said, if you have 50 of them, you are not going to remember, right? If you're a business owner at all, you realize that that's absolutely true. You don't want to make them feel like less than they are as potential customers because you can't even remember where they live or what their name was when you speak with them again on the phone. And then, of course, tracking spreadsheets. Now, I hear you rolling your eyes back into your head when I say spreadsheets. But I'm here to tell you that is the number one way to keep track of what's going on. Put together a simple spreadsheet for yourself. If you make a phone call to them, write down that you made a phone call in your spreadsheet and when it was. What was the result of that phone call? It may seem daunting at first, so just start with one line at a time. And then you have another conversation, what happened? Or another marketing piece of material went out, or whatever it was, track everything. Here's what's going to happen is it's going to become systemized. It's going to be a process so that at any point you can just pick up your spreadsheet or pick up your outstanding open intake forms and know exactly where you are. You won't have to wonder, and then somebody else, like a partner, can come along and have a look and know exactly where you are as well. So super important to be systemized as much as possible. And then, of course, follow up. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Follow up, follow up, follow up. Right. Did I mention how important it is to have good follow-up? They say the fortune is in the follow-up. And I'm telling you, the fortune is in the follow-up.
Well, it's important to keep in mind too that you're dealing with real people here,
Right.
and a lot of these people are hurting and are in trouble or are looking for answers, and you could very well be their answer. So this isn't a snatch and grab type of a situation.
Right.
This is where you're actually getting in there and hopefully can help people in a tough situation.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the answer to, or potentially have the answer to their stress.
Right.
Right. And we hear stories all the time as we interact with other real estate investors and just in our own experiences, all the time stories of people saying, oh my gosh, they saved our lives. We were so stressed, we didn't know what to do, and this person came in and helped us and got us some money in our pocket so that we could move on. So you're doing a really good thing, not only for your family, but for other people as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're out of time today, but I want to just quickly talk about the opportunity for you to get some more education. And since today's about education, if you are in a position where you are ready to get more education, maybe you need some help with inspections, self-inspections. Maybe you're struggling to do estimating for negotiations or after you've gotten the contract, good estimating numbers, or struggling with project management. We cover all of those things in our program. Larry's program, Flipping by the Numbers, talks numbers, and I talk business savvy, of course. And we would love for you to join us for our next workshop live. You can go to beflippingsavvy.com and get registered for our June workshop. So we will see you there. Thanks for joining us once again. We'll see you guys next week for another episode.